Welcome to the EDDY Pump Podcast.
My name is Nicholas Lockheimers, and I will be hosting brief interviews with some of our company's top engineers. These interviews aim to share what EDDY Pump has to offer. Today, we will be speaking with our chief engineer, the legendary Dan Wahlgren, who has been with the company since the very beginning. With over 30 years of experience, Dan has seen it all, and we feel very fortunate to share some of his experiences with you.
My name is Dan Wahlgren, and I work as chief engineer right now for EDDY Pump. I'm in my 30th year here at EDDY Pump.
How did you get your start?
Well, my father worked for Caterpillar, so from a little boy I was always around heavy equipment, and his group worked on special designed equipment. My dad was very passionate about it, and he had found out about EDDY Pump right about when I was graduating from college. Got in and got an interview here with Harry Weinrib, who was the owner and inventor of EDDY Pump, and I immediately was thrown into a major project. It was really exciting, and then I got to go out and work on the project and learn about what things work in the real world, what doesn't work. So it was an invaluable education, and while I was working with Harry for the last probably 15 years of my career, I was out in the field most of the time, hands-on, learning about everything that works and doesn't work. So I designed stuff and then got to work with it and really found out right away whether my designs were functional or beneficial or not. So it was a really humbling experience at times and very enjoyable.
How do you feel the industry has changed over the years, say from when you started to currently?
I'd say it's changed on a couple of fronts. Technology has really advanced in the last 20, 30 years. The dredging has always been kind of an old school activity, more manual levers and things like that, and it's really been brought into the modern industry, and a lot of technology has been integrated into equipment, and it's really exciting. I mean, I've seen technology being overdone in dredging and underdone, and I think there's a place right in the middle where technology can be a really effective tool for being much more efficient at dredging. So that's been really exciting. Probably one of the other concerns I have in the industry of dredging, and a lot of industries for that matter, is we don't seem to have as many people that are hands-on and willing to put in the time it takes to learn the trade from the ground up. But there's just no substitute for experience and being out on these projects and finding out what works and what doesn't work. And so I'm concerned for the future that we find ways to get the youth more involved in dredging as we move forward in the future. So
over time, do you feel technology has made it easier for certain things or harder as far as bringing people in? Is it growing the industry, or is it sort of become more exclusive?
That's a good question. I think it's good to have a basic understanding of sort of boots on the ground dredging, how the whole concept works. You can't just operate dredging like a video game. You have to be well-rounded and have a certain amount of experience that most of the time you get this from the older people you work with. They help teach you a lot of that stuff. So I really think that's important to pass that along. And I just don't see as many people going after that information from the older folks. There's a lot to be learned. And you just can't expect technology to replace all of that experience. I do see it as an excellent tool, but I think it's a two-pronged approach. You need to have some real-world experience along hands-on experience integrated with the technology, and then I think that's really exciting when you get those two things together.
What do you feel is some of the more exciting things that are coming out right now in this industry?
I think it would be automation. I've seen a lot more automation. I'm really happy to see a lot of the data logging systems and the real-time system monitoring where you can spot trends of things going wrong right away and fix them before they become catastrophic. I see this being done in the construction industry and now in the dredging and pumping industry. We have smart pump technology and things that ensure that the equipment operates optimally and that we can definitely increase mean time between failures by catching problems before they become catastrophic. So I think that is really an exciting part of technology as we're moving forward.
Looking back, what do you think is probably one of the more challenging projects you've had to deal with in your career?
I'd say one of the most challenging projects that we did was for Dow Chemical. This was on a shoreline about 3,000 feet long, and it was a sloped shoreline, and it had a lot of contamination, mercury, and other things that could not be stirred up into the waterways. So we had to design and develop a machine that could follow the contour of the bottom and suck up the target material, the contaminants. And this job was very high profile because they had tried dredging this in the past with conventional types of technologies, and they've contaminated all kinds of drinking water in Detroit and other areas. So it was a high profile, very nerve-wracking job. We had to make sure we didn't do that, and we were able to prove in the pilot study that we could do it. It was in Canada, so there were only 3 working seasons, so it was about 3 months a year, 3 to 4 months. So there's 3 seasons is probably a better way to put it. And when the area wasn't frozen over, and then we basically spent the next 3 years cleaning the whole shoreline, and it was a great success. I mean, that's something I think was one of the most challenging things that I've had to be involved with. This was around 2003 to 2005. It was a challenge, but we learned a lot of things, developed a lot of new technologies in the process of preparing for this project.
Do you want to highlight any specific technologies that were developed?
Well, we developed a terrain following technology where the cutter head ladder basically the ladder was weighed through a load cell technology, and that allowed us to apply. We used the pressure on the ground as a way to go after the target material. The target material was soft enough to where we knew if we put 1,000 pounds of force on it, we could dig the target material but not go down into the clay underneath it. So it allowed us to very precisely clean up the bottom, and we created a very flat. It was inspected by divers every night, and they said it was like a tennis court down there. They said we were cleaning that slope very effectively. So it was nice to see. That was one of my favorite technologies, and that kind of ties into a lot of the autonomous automation that's out there, where it was using all the sensors so it could climb up and over obstacles without any intervention from the operator. So this type of thing has led to more automation that we've done in autonomous technology we've been developing on dredges here in the future. So we still use those concepts that we developed for that project back in 2003. We call it terrain following technology. That's what we call it. It's used, the technology is used quite a bit for us in our new dredges. So it allows the operators to make sure they don't over dredge, because there's usually always a target material that's drifted in and laid down on the virgin soil, and that target material is softer than the original virgin ground. So we can determine how much weight it takes to get through the virgin material, and then it stops dredging, and it just keeps it from over digging, which you don't get paid for over digging, and you don't want to dig into clay and things like that. And it allows you to dig a very flat bottom when you can't see anything of what you're doing, because everything's underwater, so visibility is usually very poor.
What is an invaluable piece of equipment that you must have on a project?
If I put on my operator hat, as somebody operating a dredge or any type of pumping system, I think a flow meter is an absolute must. If you know the flow in your pipeline, you can determine whether you're going to plug or whether you're not. It's an instant way to determine if you're reaching critical line velocity. You can immediately react before you plug a pipeline, because plugging a pipeline can be catastrophic if you've got a several mile pipeline, and you could spend days cleaning it out. So having a flow meter is a very cheap piece of insurance, and then whenever I operate a piece of equipment with a flow meter, I spend most of my time just looking at the flow meter, because it allows me also to know if I'm not digging aggressively enough. I mean, if somebody's afraid of plugging the pipeline, they may be pumping too much water, or if they're not afraid of pumping the pipeline, they may get too aggressive and then end up plugging the pipelines. So the flow meter allows you to figure out where you can maintain a stable flow rate. If you go too aggressive, you start to see the flow rate go down, and then you say, all right, I got to bring it up a little, and you can fine tune and get a flow rate that maximizes production and gets rid of the risk of plugging. So I think it's an essential tool for, I think everybody that's dredging should use one.
Last question. What do you think are going to be the more exciting things to look forward to in the near future?
Autonomous dredging. Dredging has been working on ground engaging tools forever. I think we're getting better and better, more efficient ground engaging tools to maximize production and create a good finished grade. So I think that in combination with autonomous operation, I think is what we're going to see in the future. I mean, that seems to be where everything's headed, and dredging is no exception to that.
It reminds me a little bit of like drone piloting.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we're putting a dredge together right now where the operator is sitting in an air-conditioned room on shore. All his interaction is through cameras, and the machine is out on the water, but he's safe in his climate-controlled cab. So we're taking more and more. He has the ability to remove more and more tasks off of him and put him into automatic mode. So I mean, I see more of that just being used more and more as operators get comfortable using it.
Will there, by any chance, will they be using the RTK system?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this latest project will be using full RTK GPS. They'll be using DredgePack software, which will have pre-dredge survey installed, and they'll be able to monitor. They'll be able to see in real time when they get to their target material, so that they'll have a screen that paints green where they've dug down to finish grade. They'll be able to see real time, just like they're mowing the lawn. They'll be able to see on a computer screen an animation of the work they're doing. So it's great technology.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, Dan. I know you keep really busy whenever you're here, so we'll wrap it up with that question.
At Eddy Pump, we pump solids, not water. Join us next time on the Eddy Pump Podcast.